Got it. You ready?
Yes, I am ready.
All right. This is going to be easy.
Round three.
So here's how we're going to do it. We're going to do it on Zoom. I'm going to save the Zoom to YouTube. I'm going to lift the YouTube, put it on the Facebooks. We're going to get it figured out, man. Oh, sorry,
Sounds
the face
good.
page. So this is going to be one of our first ones, and hopefully everybody watches it. I think it's going to be super exciting. I'm excited for people to hear about the faith life of a youngster, of a whippersnapper. So first off, I know you, Ethan, because your mom's a religion teacher over here at St. Pat's, but you're super involved in the youth group. You come to all the things. Would you mind just spending a little bit of time talking about who you are and how you got involved in this whole place?
Yeah, sure. Will, I guess, just give a basic overview of Ethan. I recently turned 17, and I go to Gretna High School. I do track and field, and I grew up in a nice Catholic family. And thank you, dog. And
Kids,
no, cats are not better. And yeah, I went to St. Pat's for all of middle school, and yeah, that's how I sort of got assimilated into the youth group. And I guess it was just also I wanted to hang out with all of my friends from middle school even more, especially going into high school. So yeah, we just kept on, we used SPY as that opportunity to get together and continue to grow. And I've kept meeting a ton of new people, and it's all went really well. So
awesome. If you could point to like a moment or different experiences, like specific experiences that really like made you want to buy into, just like, you have your friends and you want to keep that connection, but really when it comes down to it, the life that we live as Christians, as Catholics, is devoted to Jesus Christ. So if you could I think that's a big thing for a young kid to say, like, hey, I got a life that's every day I wake up, it's devoted to Jesus Christ. But I think that you're a kid that's like that. It seems to be based on the fruit of your life. You're someone that wakes up and does his best to follow the commands of Jesus. So if you could say, like, this is when I really kind of like decided these experiences, or when I decided to really dive into the teachings of Jesus and his church, when would that be?
Well, it's definitely a day-by-day thing to the overall performance of Ethan, but I guess it all started the summer after my 8th grade year, when we were going to Steubenville. That was a really transformative time for me, because I just got to witness all these other people that I don't know if they weren't on fire all the time with their faith, but just being in that environment where they're all experiencing the retreat high, it was like, oh, I kind of want to do that too. And then also I eventually met some upperclassmen who knew a lot about the faith. And one of the things about me is, like, I want to match everyone on their level that I know, and whether or not that's a healthy thing, I don't know, but at least that helped in the faith development process. And so at that point, I just kept on trying to match where they were at, and they kept on growing by themselves. And then I was like, well, I'm going to go right with you. And then eventually I started to get the passion for myself. And then I started to just want to grow more, not for the sake of them, but for my own sake. And then so I could help people grow to that level. So yeah, that's what it's been looking like for the past couple of years now.
I would say that's totally how I see it too. I remember sitting in this room that I'm sitting in right now. I got the 2 chairs over here. We have a couch in here now. This wasn't here when you were an 8th grader, but that's how it was. We had you in here with a group of kids, and like you said, a bunch of good bros. Like a bunch of good guys at 8th grade. We'd have lunch. We'd sit and talk about whatever. We'd talk about matters of the faith, and I knew who you were, obviously, because you're Mrs. Menning's son, and I was like, oh, I know this guy. His mom's a religion teacher. He's a cool kid. But it was like more of like a group effort. But it does seem to be the reality that after that freshman year, as freshman year started going along, you started really taking off in the faith and started really just kind of like climbing as high as you could. You started really climbing, and I think it's exactly how you said it. You started seeing people that were experiencing Jesus, experiencing what Jesus can do in someone's life, and seeing folks that were a little bit more devout, let's say, than you. And you're like, well, hey, I like this, what these guys know, what they're experiencing. I kind of want to be like that. So that's very cool. When we talk about, usually on Sundays, we'll have conversations with a bunch of kids, and we'll talk about what I call the 5 ordinary means of holiness. So, when you're a disciple, in discipleship, you've got the disciplines and the relationship. They're key, both of them. If you have this relationship with Jesus Christ, that's great. But with every relationship comes expectations of the way you act, with a mom, with siblings, things like that. So when it comes to the disciplines of the faith, the things that we talk about are prayer, sacraments, charity, penance, and study. I'd like to run down those and just kind of talk about, you can talk about what they're like in your life right now, how they've changed in the past couple of months, couple of years. But let's start with prayer, and how has prayer looked in your life recently and in the past?
Prayer it's definitely been up there over the past few weeks and during the pandemic time period. Because I've gotten a lot of structured time that I wouldn't have gotten during the school year, just because it feels like the school year, something's popping up all the time, whether it's like sports or I need to help my parents with something and it's more of a confined time period where I actually have free time, right. Or it would just be so much easier to hit that snooze button and just keep on going, sleeping and just missing out on that time. I've let out the dogs. 1 minute.
Excuse me. Who let the dogs out? Ethan, who let the dogs out? Is that funny?
Yeah. It's.
As a cat fan, cats let themselves out again, but cats aren't going to fly in the Menning household. So I'm cool. I gotta be comfortable with that.
Yep. Cats.
So prayer, structure, with the lack of school activities and extracurriculars, you've actually had time to sit down and structure some prayer life.
Yeah. So like with that, we've gotten to schedule a nightly rosary that a few adults usually attend, and then a ton of students. And usually on our max night, we'll get about probably 10 to 12 students. And it's just, I feel like that to start off with was such a formative experience for us, just because like, I don't know, it's so hard to grow in the faith on your own, but when you're doing it with a ton of people, it's that much easier. Mm-hmm. And along with that, I've probably been attending ever since churches started opening up again, I started going to daily mass, and I plan to continue that throughout the summer and hopefully into the school year. We'll see if my dad lets me go before school at St. Stephen's, but I don't know.
Obedience to your parents.
Yes.
Before we get into mass, because I'm really looking forward to diving into that. When it comes to that rosary, that's a nice thing, praying as a community. But that was something that you started even before that. You and some of your pals, some of that group had started something on Monday nights here at St. Pat's during the school year. Yeah.
So we started a group called Rosary and Runza last August. And so that group would just meet every Monday night. We'd meet at the church at St. Pat's, and then we would pray a rosary all together. We'd alternate decades between everyone, so everyone got their own prayer time. And then we would go over to Runza and we just hang out and mess around. And I don't know how those Runza people tolerated us, but we got crazy some days, but it was all in good faith. So
all in good faith. I see what you did there. Hey, let's make a plug too. I can never talk good enough about Kevin Jurasic, man. That guy over there at Runza, that guy's he's been the most wonderful host to you guys. And I think that anytime Kevin Jurasic, if he sniffs that some kids are coming over that just got done praying the rosary, he's going to be over the moon. So Kevin Jurasic has been the most wonderful neighbor of St. Patrick's.
He made it a very good time for all of us.
Yeah. He's a stud.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then after that, after Runza, we would just go back to St. Pat's and hang out. When it was nice out, we would go up to the playground area. When it started getting a little worse out, we would go hang out in like the PC with an adult, so it was a safe environment. Or if there wasn't an adult, we'd just hang out. We'd tailgate in some people's cars and stuff, and we just have a good time.
Good.
And Yeah, that friend group, I think it developed into so much more since we had the faith foundation to it to
Yeah.
start off with.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And just a little bit more on prayer. You have that structured time, that communal time, which is beautiful. Praying in a community is excellent. When it comes to the individual prayer time, I think I've heard you talk about that a little bit. How does that look in your life? Morning, night, those kind of things.
hmm for the past few weeks, it's been pretty good. The past few days, it's been a little shaky. Just, I don't know. We've started to get into a bad sleep schedule again and a bad, I don't know, morning schedule. Just so busy and everything. But
Yeah.
over the past few weeks, it's been really good. I guess it's been kind of off and on, but I'll try and always say like, it's usually a more personalized prayer at nighttime, and then in the morning, it's just like maybe knock out like a Divine Mercy chaplet or just a few like memorized basic Catholic prayers. And well, we also as a family we try and do it every night, and we have been pretty good about that during this quarantine time. We try and we all get in someone's bedroom, and then we all say what we're thankful for the day, just like as a reflection on the good things that happened, and just, I don't know, letting our family know about just all the good things. And then someone chooses the prayer every night. It's just a different memorized Catholic prayer, and it's just a good way to end off the day. And it's sort of that time where, I mean, it used to be the time where my parents were like, okay, now we go to bed. But now it's sort of like, okay, now everyone goes to bed, but I guess, Ethan, this is your 3-hour marker. You have 3 more hours left.
Oh,
So
geez. I don't know how you guys do it.
No, then it's usually just Xbox time after that. But.
I think that's beautiful though, man. You're finding time to pray by yourself, which is crucial, so it's that you're involved in this actively as an individual. Oh, you showed the Ben Shapiro face now. Ooh, okay. That might scare people that watch this. I don't know. Then you have the time with your friends, but you also have time with your family too. So you're involving multiple groups of individuals in this prayer time. Next, you talked a little bit about the sacraments. That's been one of the things I've been most appreciative about you and some of your friends this summer. We talked about sacraments. Obviously, we got Eucharist and confession. Can you talk a little bit about those again?
Yeah. So, like I said, Mass has been a pretty crucial thing for us the past few weeks, just because it harbors a very good environment to grow with those people and to get better with them. And I feel like now that masses and churches have finally become available to us, it's really given me like more appreciation for like the Eucharist, because before it was just something that, it was just a regular part of the liturgy for me. And it was like, I don't know, it wasn't anything like significant. And before the quarantine period, I was kind of starting to develop that love that should be towards the Eucharist. And I was like really trying to focus on like, this is the source and summit of the Catholic faith.
Right.
But then once the virus hit, it took like everything away. And the first few weeks of quarantine, I was like genuinely scared, because I was like, man, I had just developed this love for the Eucharist.
Right.
And I realized that like without the Eucharist, the Catholic Church teaches that like you can't be saved without the Eucharist. And so I don't know, there was that fearfulness in me that was like, well, what am I going to do? Because I don't have this thing, and without this thing, I can't get into heaven. But then obviously there were exceptions made by the church because we couldn't. But then once things started reopening, there was that love came back and just like deepened reverence.
Right.
And I don't think it was just for me. I think it was for all of my friends. And I know it was for them, because I could just see like if I would ever pick my head up during the consecration, my friends were just like transfixed. And it was just a really cool thing to see.
Awesome. I think that's a great point. This is a necessity of our faith. This is essential for heaven. He who eats my flesh, drinks my blood, has eternal life. Obviously, there's exceptions, times of where you just can't have access to the Eucharist. But you're right, man. I think that everyone, I would hope that people have a renewed zeal for the Eucharist, like you were talking about. How about confession? Maybe one that maybe I saw you wipe your brow a little bit. Maybe confession brings a little bit of a sweat to someone's brow. How have you gone with reconciliation over the last couple of years?
Over the past couple of years, it's been shaky at the best. It's just, well, because during middle school and at St. Pat's, it was like, we do it twice a year, and I would never go any other time than that. It was once during Lent to prepare for for Easter, and then once during Advent to prepare for Christmas. So I thought that was all I needed. But then as I grew older, I was like, wow, the sins are starting to rack up a lot in this span of like a lot of months. So I was like, this needs to become a regular thing.
Right.
So now my friend group and I have gotten into, it's usually about once every other week that we end up going. And I feel like that's just, it's added to the importance of how I live my life. It's made me more reflective and stuff, but also, like, I was talking about how I had a greater love for the Eucharist now.
Yeah.
And now it's become so much better and so much more meaningful to receive the Eucharist with as little sin as possible on my soul.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's just, I'm starting to like get that deeper meaning and what the Eucharist should feel like every time I receive it. So it's just like greater love and reverence. So.
Good. Beautiful. The next two, the third and the fourth one kind of go hand in hand. It's charity, loving God for his sake and loving your neighbor as yourself. But sometimes that means putting you in second place. So it goes hand in hand with the penance or the mortification, finding ways to deny yourself. So how does it look when it comes to loving others in your life and loving God, but also putting yourself second? How does that look in your life?
Mm-hmm. It's definitely been a struggle for me, just because like now that I have all this free time, I can basically do whatever I want with it. So I think the lack in charity, it started off with just the amount of time that I was spending with my family, because I noticed like I was, I live down in Gretna, but all my friends live up in Elkhorn, at least all of the youth group friends and stuff. So I still go there a ton, and I only get a few hours to spare with my family every day.
Right.
And so it's basically like, okay, I'll be here for meals. I'll be here for mom and dad to feed me, and then I get a roof over my head when I sleep. But after that, I'm just gone.
You little baby.
Yeah. And so I was like, not only is that like unfair to them, but I also like miss them, and I want to spend more time with them. And so recently I've been making up for that time. I've been taking siblings to practice, and I've been taking my sister over to her friend's house and stuff. And it's car ride conversations have been pretty crucial for the past few days. And yeah, I've been able to talk with my mom and my dad a lot more recently. And I mean, we still do plenty of good things up in Elkhorn with my friends, but it's just the added, well, once you find the perfect balance between family and friends, it's very good. And so I'm starting to get into that phase.
Yeah, excellent. I think that's crucial too, finding that time with my family, which is my primary mission field, loving my siblings, loving my parents, respecting my parents, which is difficult for every teenager. I think that's your main rebellion time. You want to get the car keys and go do whatever you want to, but that's not always the story. And it's good that you have this well-formed conscience where that radar is going off in your brain where you're like, no, I need to be home tonight. I need to do this. Like even I think you said today was like a chill day for you. We were talking earlier where you were just at home and I'm just going to be here today.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Today was sort of like, I had been active and everywhere for the past, I think I was on like a 15-day streak of just being out of the house constantly and just with friends. And again, it was all good, fun stuff, but it was just like, I was starting to like miss the family time. So like last night we had a movie night and it was good to hang out with the entire family. And today I was just like, we don't need to really go anywhere other than mass this morning. But other than that, I've just been hanging out, talking with my mom a lot today. So it's been just a good day. Yeah.
Well, if you're thinking about others, which is hard to do, you know, admittedly, I'll say the same thing. How have you just, you know, how have you found with self-denial, you know, taking up, offering things up for other people when things don't always go your way?
Hmm. So yeah, recently I've had to deny myself a lot with my time, whether that's like doing things that I would rather do other than hang out with a certain group of friends or with my family, like I said, or just having to take my siblings to practice. And a part of that self-denial is realizing like these aren't bad things that I like have to do. Like I'm getting the virtuous conversations in with my
Hmm.
siblings and my friends, and I'm really starting to find like everything's like a blessing in disguise. So
Yeah.
I feel like that's the biggest self-denial that I've been doing. And I want to start doing other things. Like I know my friends are taking cold showers and stuff, and they're sleeping on the floor of their beds, but I haven't gotten around to that. It's been a lot of laziness, and it turns out when you're outside with your friends all day and in the sun, you like become so drained at night that you just want a nice bed to sleep in. So
I want to be
maybe once,
comfortable.
yeah, once I start to like regulate that time, maybe I'll,
Yeah.
I don't know, I don't know,
Cool.
but
Well, I think that it's always fun to go from one that maybe someone's not as successful at to one that someone is finds easy. So, you know, maybe the penance is difficult for you, but the study seems to be an area that you like to succeed in quite a bit and have like an internal zeal that just like can't stop acquiring knowledge. How does that look in your life?
yeah. So study is like, it's definitely, I think that and sacraments, that's like the tip top,
Yeah.
just because I always want to know more about all my stuff. And I kind of said earlier how like I got to know people who would know so much about the faith and I wanted to match them. But then, yeah, like I said earlier, I started wanting to just know more by myself. And I feel like that like desire to know more just makes study easy to me. And so like it's easy for me to crank out like Dr. Taylor Marshall videos or Father Mike Schmidt's videos or the occasional Trent Horn video or
Hmm.
yeah, my problem is finding the balance between that and like Ben Shapiro or the rest of the Daily Wire people or
Yeah.
yeah, just anything else. But yeah, so I feel like it's not hard for me to will myself to watch an educational video, but yeah, it's harder for me to will myself to like read a book, which I'm not doing right now. Which
We're
I'm gonna
sorry,
get
Alex.
grilled
We're
for
so
that in a little
sorry.
bit. Yeah, okay. But yeah, so we could definitely make more room to make that a priority.
Yeah.
Um, yes, but other than that, study is like, I don't know. It's definitely easy for me, and it's easy for me to get immersed into everything, but it's hard for me to like eventually lay off everything and just
Hmm.
be satisfied where I'm at,
Oh, sure, sure,
which
sure.
is a blessing and a curse. So
Right. Double-edged sword, huh?
exactly.
Well, I guess then I got one more question for you, and it's just this. I think that many parents who are on the Facebooks watching these things are like, hey, man, I would love to see my kid, you know, being this zealous about the faith, loving to pray, loving to go to daily mass. Like, gosh, if my kid asked me to go to daily mass, I'd be like, sure, please do. You know, I don't have to drag you. Are you serious? Like confession? Come on. I don't have to make you, you know, or watching YouTube videos that weren't about the latest Fortnite grind, but obvious, but about truths of the faith. They would love to see that. So if you could give some like maybe like one or two, like a pro and a con, you know, like things that parents should consider when encouraging their students in the faith. Maybe some things that parents should be aware of that might detract from the faith from a
Hmm.
student's point of view.
Yeah, I found that the most beneficial thing for me is to be surrounded by a lot of adults and a lot of, I mean, I think the most pivotal thing for me right now is just the friends that I have who are also Catholic and who also have a deep desire to grow in their faith. I think the friends part of it is very crucial, and it's just my parents did a very good job of placing me in situations where I could grow and it wasn't like unhealthy for me. Whether that's with other adults or with other, I mean, kids my age. And like I heard the saying the other day, like it takes a village to raise a child, and it's
Yeah.
so hard just to have two parents or just the household setting alone to grow, well, for a kid to grow in the faith. That's just hard to do. But once you get a ton of other people and a ton of other positive influences, it just becomes into such a beneficial thing that it's easier to grow. I mean, the Catholic Church isn't a very easy thing to just develop in. But when you put yourself, at least alone, but when you put yourself and surround yourself with a ton of people who want to see you succeed and themselves succeed, it becomes so much better.
Great.
I guess what not to do is basically what I just said. Like, don't isolate or don't try and put your child in like scenarios that would even be like questionable unless they're ready for it. Mm-hmm. Because like for me, I've gotten my fair share of experiences in public schools where like I know when or when not to attend or what not to do in those scenarios. And without a good like Catholic background that tells me right from wrong, I don't know what I would do, because it seems like I'm society's like main enemy, like go against society. But
but you're in those spots, like putting like allowing these students to be in these spots that are difficult without that formation. Like like I'm in the spot that seems like a good idea, but I don't have the formation with or the quality support group of not only my parents and friends, but multiple adults, even multiple role models to say, okay, what would this person do in this situation? If you don't have that, it's much easier to fall into those behaviors.
Exactly. Yeah.
Great. Well, awesome, man. We've actually tried this a few times. I think this is our most successful time. I'm really excited about it. I'm ready to save this thing and put it on the face page.
Yeah, you haven't glitched out at all for me. And it's a perfect time to end because Rosary's going to start up right now.
Rosary's going to start. All right, dude. Thank you so much.
Of course, Adam. We'll talk to you later. We'll see ya.